Please be seated. Grace, peace, and mercy are yours from the triune God. Amen. Happy Good Shepherd Sunday. That is what we call today, where we get inundated with all sorts of shepherding metaphors from every single text. I like Good Shepherd Sunday. It is a special Sunday because I like the metaphor of a shepherd. For about 6 months, right after finishing my seminary classes and before starting my pastoral internship in Westminster with the ELCA, I worked part-time at a Presbyterian church off of First Avenue and Broadway in Denver. My life felt like chaos in that season of life. I was struggling through the ordination process. I was working 3 part-time jobs to try and contribute to my family. I didn't feel like I had support from the synod, and I was angry a lot, like all the time. I didn't have direction, I didn't have leadership, and the mentors that I had, when I would come to them upset about what was going on or the situation that I was in, about being asked to jump through a hoop, through ordination with no support, or to shell out more money for a class I didn't think I needed, or panic about where I was going to get said money and how I was going to make this right with my spouse, would listen carefully, empathize, and would wisely tell me to pray, to dwell in God. My mentors would say, what at the time, frustrating things like God will provide, God will care for you and protect you and lead you through this, it will happen, be on the lookout. And I would get so mad about it. I would stomp away all ticked and go and dwell in my suffering instead of God, refuse to be on the lookout for what I know I needed to do. It was a dark valley in my life because everything was a mess, and the only thing I could think of to do was grit my teeth, smile, and work harder, or just pretend it was going to be okay when clearly it was not. And one Saturday night, I was at the church at like 3 o'clock in the morning, having just finished a bar shift and still needing to vacuum the sanctuary for Sunday morning, and I looked up and finally noticed really noticed a giant stained glass window in the back of the sanctuary. It was lit up from the back side of the window, so it was the only thing you could see in this dark sanctuary, and it was the image of Jesus as a shepherd. And he had a little helpless sheep on his back. And he was walking through these mountains, which looked like the ones outside of Denver and not like the ones in the Middle East. And I just stared at it until something broke in me, and I just wept in that dark, empty room. As God's presence, what God was actually doing for me, that little helpless sheep that couldn't even walk on its own at the time, sort of washed over me. My mentors were right. I needed to pray. God provided. This image of Jesus as the Good Shepherd is honestly the most valuable, useful, and beautiful metaphors of Jesus that I can think of most of the time. Because sheep need a shepherd. You ever see those videos of sheep that have been abandoned in the wilderness or like fell down on an island or something like that, and their wool just grows around them until it's matted and they can't see? Have you seen those? And their hooves are too big and it hurts for them to walk. And that like somebody on a boat finds these sheep wandering around. You seen those videos? Sheep can't thrive without a shepherd. They need somebody to take care of them. The metaphor speaks in 100 different ways. Jesus protects us like a shepherd. We are not alone. Not only is the shepherd with us, there are other sheep, even some that are not a part of the fold yet, but they are God's sheep, and they will be cared for. Jesus doesn't keep us from harm like sheep. Sometimes we wander off. Sometimes bad things happen to the sheep. We live in a world where there are wolves and dark valleys and trials that we go through, horrible things that still happen sometimes, but Jesus does hold us when we need it. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, walks with us. Like a shepherd, Jesus cares a lot for his sheep. And will go to any length to let us know that he is on our side. And it's not because the sheep do something special. It's not because they know the right tricks or the right way to behave, like in Babe or something, the right words to pray or can walk single file. In fact, a lot of the time, we don't do those right things. The shepherd just loves them. They are his. That's their identity. That's Jesus' identity. It's who they are. It's who we are. It's a special and beautiful relationship. And like I said, it could be looked at in 100 different ways, and each one of them is beautiful, but when it comes down to it, for me, our need for a shepherd, the deep knowing that God is with us and loves us and will go through great lengths for us, is what has meant the most to me. As I have reflected on this text, and as I have remembered my early morning encounter with Jesus the shepherd in that church off First Avenue several years ago, my feeling of loss, my feeling of aloneness, of needing to do everything myself and having no support, was representative of another part of the story too. I think that thing that I'm thinking of is those hired hands that run off when things get bad. These hired hands that we follow around and think we can trust don't, as it turns out, have our best interest at heart. Despite us treating them like a shepherd sometimes and getting confused, something we must do because we think they'll keep us safe, they are not shepherds. And they don't act like Jesus, even though we convince ourselves that they are good. And that at first, and at the first second life gets real and hard, those things, those false shepherds, they run off. And we find out that they don't work. For me, my hired hand, the thing that I set up in place of Jesus, was my own power. My own ability and need to get things done and work harder and harder to say the right thing and be the right thing for whoever needed me. To be the perfect spouse, to be the perfect student, the perfect employee, the perfect whatever, to be strong and self-reliant. If I could just follow the voice of that hired hand, if I could just grit my teeth, if I could just do that, then I would be safe, as I told myself. Then I would be cared for. Then I would have earned the love that I so desperately needed. But wouldn't you just know it, that hired hand could not give me what I needed. That lie that I convinced myself was true left me broken and angry and afraid. And it ran off when things got bad. When I couldn't, in fact, give me what I needed, and I was left alone. My pride, my work ethic was not the good shepherd. It couldn't comfort me. It couldn't lead me beside still waters or guide me. It couldn't carry me on its shoulders when I couldn't walk anymore. Only Jesus could do that. Only Jesus could be the good shepherd for me, and I couldn't earn his love. And there are other hired hands we have in our lives, and they serve us to a point. Maybe it's a person who we depend on and love deeply, like a spouse or a family member, but they are people sheep just like us. They also need a good shepherd. And sometimes they'll let us down because they are not Jesus. And they are not the good shepherd. And it's not fair for ourselves or for them to put us in that role or for us to put them in that role. Maybe like me, it's our own abilities that we put our trust in, and but we fail. And that's okay. Jesus will be there to pick us up. Our work ethic and striving is not the good shepherd. And if we expect our efforts to somehow replace God's love, it won't. We need to be led and cared for and held tight. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's our traditions, or maybe it's the way things have always been. Maybe it's nostalgia, the paths that we have walked before that we put our trust in. Maybe it's something else. Numbing agent. Maybe it's joking it off. Maybe we think those things can comfort us. But they can't protect us and walk with us and lead us to new life like the Good Shepherd can. All these hired hands, they are helpful. They walk with us all through life too, and they can't give us what we need. They cannot give the unconditional love, the perfect peace, the free, wild grace like the Good Shepherd can. People of God, may we know the voice of our shepherd. May we follow him beside the still waters and new life, even in the dark and troubled valleys. And may we know deep down in our bones his love for us. Amen.